welcome back to our channel, a wonderful place where we gather to discuss the stories that have captivated us for decades. I have been watching General Hospital for more years than I can count, and I know many of you have been right there with me, watching these characters grow from infants into troubled adults. Lately, my heart aches specifically for Lulu. We have seen her survive so much over the decades, from freezing islands to heartbreaking losses. Yet the writers seem determined to push her to her absolute breaking point. Looking at the current landscape of her life, I cannot help but feel a profound sense of sympathy mixed with a critic's frustration. Why must the legacy characters endure such relentless misery? I suppose it is the nature of daytime television, but the sheer volume of betrayal heading Lulu's way is truly staggering. She's about to face a perfect storm of familial wrath, deceit, and a terrifying physical danger that threatens not just her, but the innocent children she holds so dear. The first wave of this impending storm comes from her own flesh and blood. Lulu is bracing herself to face the pure, unadulterated wrath of Rocco. As a longtime viewer, watching a mother and son at odds is always a difficult pill to swallow. Rocco is acting out of a place of deep confusion and pain, emotions that are all too common for the children growing up in Port Charles. I often wonder how these kids ever grow up to be well-adjusted adults when their formative years are steeped in such relentless chaos. Rocco's anger is justified in his own adolescent mind, but it is just the tip of the iceberg for Lulu. She might initially think that mending fences with her teenage son is her biggest hurdle, but we seasoned viewers know better. The writers are cleverly using Rocco's angst as a smokescreen, momentarily distracting Lulu from the monumental earthquakes about to shatter her foundation. The situation with Charlotte is particularly agonizing to watch unfold. We have watched this young woman navigate the treacherous waters of being part of the Cassadine legacy, and the escalating danger from Cullum is now pushing her into a terrifying corner. I have to ask myself, how much pressure can one young girl take before she completely cracks under the weight of it all? The answer, it seems, is that her breaking point is imminent. The threat from Cullum is growing so severe and unpredictable that Charlotte is on the verge of a massive, life-altering confession. She is carrying a secret so heavy that it would easily crush a fully grown adult, let alone someone of her tender age. It is a classic General Hospital trope to have the children bear the sins and secrets of their fathers, but the execution here is particularly heart-wrenching to witness. Charlotte's impending confession to Lulu is a bombshell that will rewrite months of established history. She is preparing to admit that Valentine, the complex man whose shadow looms large over all of their lives, has been hiding right under Carly's roof for months. Yes, you heard that correctly. While everyone was going about their daily lives oblivious to the truth, Valentine was orchestrating his survival from the very heart of Carly's domain. Furthermore, Charlotte will reveal that he is currently executing a highly dangerous mission in Geneva. When I first analyzed this plot point, I was genuinely torn as a critic. On one hand, the sheer audacity of Valentine hiding in Carly's house is brilliant, edge-of-your-seat soap opera drama. On the other hand, it severely stretches the bounds of believability. How could Carly, a woman who prides herself on knowing absolutely everything that happens in her territory, be so completely blind to a fugitive living in her own home? The fallout from this staggering revelation will be catastrophic for both Lulu and Carly. I can already picture the sheer devastation on their faces when the truth finally comes to light. For months, Charlotte has looked them directly in the eye and lied, protecting Valentine at the immense expense of her relationship with the women who care for her the most. Carly, as we all know from decades of watching her fiercely guard her family, does not handle deception well, especially when it occurs under her own roof. Her pride will be deeply wounded, but her heartbreak over Charlotte's prolonged duplicity will be genuine and profound. Lulu, however, will feel this betrayal on a deeply maternal level. To realize that Charlotte felt she had to lie, that she was carrying this immense burden entirely alone while living in constant, paralyzing fear of Cullum, will completely shatter Lulu's heart I believe the writers are setting up a fascinating dynamic here, forcing Carly and Lulu to unite in their shared grief and anger, but also in their desperate need to protect Charlotte from the dangerous fallout of Valentine's Geneva mission. However, as devastating as the Charlotte situation is, it pales in comparison to the grotesque violation Lulu is about to uncover regarding Cassius. This is where I must put on my critic's hat and firmly state that the writers are treading into incredibly dark, psychologically damaging territory. If you have been following the show as long as I have, you know that the tragic ghost of Nathan has always lingered over Lulu. The loss of Nathan was a trauma that fundamentally altered the fabric of her life. Now, we are learning that Cassius has orchestrated a deception so vile and manipulative that it makes my skin crawl just thinking about it. Cassius has somehow managed to trick Lulu into believing that he was Nathan all this time. Let that horrific reality sink in for a moment. He did not just impersonate a random stranger, he resurrected a dead love, preying on Lulu's deepest vulnerabilities, her unresolved grief, and her desperate, aching desire to have her family whole again. He manipulated her fragile emotions so masterfully that he even took her to bed under this sickening false pretense. I am frankly appalled by the cruelty of this specific storyline, though I cannot deny its gripping, mesmerizing nature. It asks a terrifying question about the human mind. How much can profound grief blind us to the reality standing right in front of us? Lulu wanted Nathan back so badly that her mind must have ignored whatever glaring red flags were present. The psychological manipulation required to pull this off is staggering, and it firmly paints Cassius as one of the most sinister, sociopathic villains we have seen in Port Charles in a very long time. The moment Lulu realizes she has been sleeping with a cruel imposter, a man who wore the persona of her beloved Nathan to utterly violate her trust, will be a shock of epic, destructive proportions. I genuinely worry for the character's sanity in the aftermath of this revelation. How does one ever recover from such an intimate, profound betrayal of the body and soul? As an older viewer, I have seen characters go completely mad from far less. This is not just a simple lie. It is a calculated assault on her very being. I believe the writers need to tread very carefully here, ensuring that Lulu's reaction is given the heavy weight and dedicated screen time it rightfully deserves. She cannot simply bounce back from this trauma in a few episodes. The agonizing pain of losing Nathan will be brutally reopened, compounded by the sheer disgust and horror of what Cassius has done to her. But the relentless drama does not stop at the emotional revelation. In true General Hospital fashion, the psychological trauma is immediately followed by high-stakes physical danger. Lulu, undoubtedly reeling from this earth-shattering truth, is somehow becoming the very physical obstacle preventing Cassius from executing his grand escape plan from Port Charles. This creates a terrifying, claustrophobic standoff. Cassius, finally unmasked and desperate to flee, will undoubtedly drop the loving Nathan facade and reveal his true, ruthless nature to her face. Lulu, fueled by a dangerous mixture of profound grief, absolute blinding rage, and a desperate need for some semblance of justice, is standing directly in his way. I actually love this setup because it transforms Lulu from a passive victim of a cruel scheme into an active, furious participant in her own survival. She is not just weeping over the betrayal, she is fighting back, effectively escalating the dangerous situation to a terrifying boiling point. This impending confrontation between a cornered, desperate Cassius and a furious, broken Lulu is a literal powder keg waiting to explode. Cassius has already proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that he has absolutely no moral compass, willing to desecrate the sacred memory of a good man just to get what he wants. If Lulu is the only thing standing between him and his freedom, I fear deeply for her physical safety. The writers are brilliantly weaving the heavy emotional stakes with classic physical thriller elements. We are left on the edge of our seats, wondering exactly how far Cassius will go to silence Lulu and make his clean getaway. Will he attempt to kidnap her to use as leverage? Will he try to kill her in a fit of desperate panic? The sheer unpredictability of a cornered villain is a classic soap opera engine, and it is firing on all cylinders in this storyline. However, the most heart-stopping, tragic twist in this entire saga is the impending danger to little James. As if Lulu has not suffered enough unimaginable pain, her new frantic obsession with stopping Cassius and uncovering the full, terrifying extent of his plot is inadvertently pulling James directly into the crosshairs of danger. This is where I find myself wanting to shout at the television screen. James is a completely innocent child, the actual flesh and blood of the real, honorable Nathan. The tragic, sickening irony that the fake Nathan's heinous actions are now directly threatening the real Nathan's son is a masterclass in dramatic, emotionally manipulative storytelling, even if it is incredibly agonizing for us longtime fans to watch. Lulu's fierce maternal instincts will be thrown into a chaotic blender. She is desperately trying to right a terrible wrong, to punish the monster who violated her and Nathan's memory. But in doing so, she is blindly dragging her innocent boy into a deadly, unpredictable game. The crushing realization that she has unintentionally placed James in mortal danger will undoubtedly be the final, devastating blow for Lulu. It is one thing to bravely face danger yourself. It is an entirely different, unbearable reality to know your own actions have endangered the life of your precious child. This new shock will test her resilience and mental fortitude like never before. I can vividly see the agonizing guilt washing over her face. How will she ever forgive herself for this oversight? How will she manage to protect James while simultaneously fending off a desperate, dangerous Cassius? This deeply layered, morally complex storytelling is exactly what keeps us coming back decade after decade. We invest our hearts and emotions into these legacy families, and seeing the beloved memory of Nathan threatened in such a twisted, dark manner is guaranteed to keep the audience deeply invested in the outcome. As we look ahead to these upcoming episodes, I urge all of you longtime fans to brace yourselves for a rough emotional ride. The intricate tapestry of lies, cruel impersonations, and hidden agendas that the writers have woven is about to unravel in spectacular, destructive fashion. From Rocco's misplaced teenage anger and Charlotte's desperate, heavy secrets to the horrifying, skin-crawling truth about Cassius and the terrifying, imminent threat to little James, poor Charles is heading straight into a very dark, unforgiving storm. I, for one, will be watching closely, analyzing every tear shed and every tense confrontation. While I may strongly disagree with the sheer, unrelenting amount of trauma constantly heaped upon Lulu, I cannot deny that this is compelling, edge-of-your-seat television that demands our attention. Let us all hope that our beloved characters can somehow find a way through this suffocating darkness and emerge stronger on the other side, though the scars they carry will undoubtedly last a lifetime.